What's going on, man? In today's video, we are going over how busy Christian dads are able to lose 30 to 50 pounds in just 3 to 4 hours of committed work per week without having to sacrifice carbs or even eating separate from their wife and kids. So this video is for you if you are a Christian husband or father who wants to lose 30 to 50 pounds, maybe even more, and most importantly, keep that weight off for good. Maybe you feel like you're crushing it at work, but at the same time, you quietly feel like you're falling short at home. Maybe you come home after the long days at work and you feel like you're running on fumes, and you know that your kids are not getting the best of you because they're just getting what's left of you. You probably avoid pool days and family photos because you're ashamed of how you look. Deep down, your wife might tell you that she loves you no matter what, but if we're being honest, you haven't felt confident or desirable in a really long time. You keep telling yourself that you'll start again next Monday or after that work trip or whatever it might be, but you know that that never lasts, and deep down you know that you're not leading your family the way that God is calling you to, but you are ready to change that. And if you stick around to the end of this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact 3-step process that I use to help busy Christian dads lose 30 to 50 pounds without cutting carbs, without having to wake up at 4 a.m. just to get a workout in, or eating separate meals from their family. And this is the same exact process that's helped dads go from completely worn down to strong, confident, and fully present at home. They start leading their families physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So if you've tried to do this before in the past and you just couldn't stick with it, and if you feel like you've lost your edge as a man, a husband, or a father, this might just be the turning point that you have been praying for. Let's imagine for a second a future where you come home after a long day at work and you still have the energy to chase your kids around the yard. You no longer hide behind your wife and kids in photos because you actually want to be in the frame. Your wife looks at you differently, not just as a provider, but as a confident man that she's physically and spiritually drawn to. You're up early, your Bible is open, your workout is done, and you're leading your family by example in a way that your kids will never forget. And the best part, you're not just losing weight, you're becoming the leader, protector, and provider that God has called you to be. That future that I just painted, that is not a fantasy, man. That's exactly what's happening for men just like you, because this is what happens when you stop settling and you start showing up. The 3-step process that I'm about to show you has helped Andrew, a dad of twin girls, lose 40 pounds and lead his family so well that they actually stepped up to foster and adopt a 3rd child. It's helped Jared, a dad of 2, drop 54 pounds in a 6-month period, feel like a 2.0 version of himself, no longer having to fear health problems, but now walking in confidence and also eradicating some sinful habits and behaviors. It helped Eric, a father of 4, lose 37 pounds and reignite intimacy in his marriage that was on the brink. His wife started noticing, complimenting him, and finally seeing the man that she married again. And the cool part is that these are not models or fitness influencers. They are everyday, ordinary Christian dads who lost 30 to 50 pounds in a 6-month period, not by cutting carbs or not living in the gym 7 days per week, but just 3 to 4 hours of simple but consistent effort. And before I show you the 3-step process, I want to share a bit of my story and why I created this in the first place, because I know what it feels like to carry extra weight, to live in sweatpants because nothing else fits, to avoid the mirror, to hate how you look in photos. I literally had a gut that hung over my belt, a double chin that I couldn't hide in those photos, and I watched my confidence quietly disappear. Eventually, I got disciplined, I tracked my calories, I hit my steps, I started training consistently, and I got shredded enough to step on stage for a bodybuilding show. But here is what nobody tells you. You can have a 6-pack and still feel completely empty on the inside. I had the body that I wanted, but not the peace that I needed, because even though I was raised as a Christian, I was chasing validation, numbing my stress, running from God. And it all came to a head in spring 2021. I woke up one night, heart pounding, gasping for air. I watched my Apple Watch spike to 180 beats per minute from a full-blown anxiety attack, and I literally thought that I was going to die right there on the couch alone. But something inside of me said, put on worship music. I opened Spotify, hit shuffle play, and the first song that played was I Surrender by Hillsong. And as I listened to the lyrics, here I am, down on my knees again, I broke down. I dropped to my knees and I prayed and said, God, I am done living life my way. I surrender and I want to live your way. And that night changed everything for me. But the refining wasn't over yet, because a few months later, I got hit by a train. Literally. If I was one more step forward on those train tracks, the train would have pushed me onto the tracks when it hit me, and I would not be standing here today living to tell the tale. God had other plans that day because I should have been dead. And all I could think after the accident was, if you kept me alive, God, there must be a reason. It was clear to me that he wasn't done with me yet. But if I'm being honest, I still wasn't fully surrendered to him in his ways, because in 2022, I moved to Florida to go all in on my online fitness business, but I started chasing money without purpose. I told myself that I was doing it for God, but I wasn't building it with God. I was helping everyone, men, women, weight loss, muscle gain, didn't matter. If you had a pulse and a fitness goal, I was in. And on the outside, it looked like I had it together. I had the six pack, I had the success, but I still didn't have that peace. I was providing for everyone, but leading no one. I was misaligned. I was distracted. I was striving. And even when it looked like I had it all together, I was still doing it my way, and it wasn't working. But that finally changed in September of 2023. Much like that night in 2021 when I had the anxiety attack, I laid my business down at God's feet, and I made a vow to help one type of man. I wanted to help busy Christian men become the leaders that God was calling them to be. Not just physically strong, but emotionally steady, spiritually grounded, and fully present at home. And since September 2023, we have helped over 120 men transform from the inside out. But during that time, here is what I learned. To become the man that God is calling you to be, you don't need a crash diet. You don't need a crazy gym split. You just need one thing. You need to invite God into your weight loss journey. Undoubtedly, that is the one thing that changed everything for me. Not just in how I handle business or how I approach my faith, but how I approach fitness as well. And it's the same shift that's helping busy Christian dads inside our program not just lose this weight, but become the leaders that God is calling them to be. Because when you stop trying to white knuckle your way through this and you start aligning your health with your faith and your calling, you don't just drop the body fat, dude. You become stronger emotionally, you become steadier spiritually, and you are more present at home. That's why most guys fail when they try things like keto, carnivore, intermittent fasting, or whatever the latest 4 a.m. influencer is pushing on Instagram. But the real reason that nothing has worked long term is because you're focusing on strict rules instead of results. You're prioritizing perfection over sustainability. You're demonizing certain food groups or eliminating them entirely instead of building daily habits that serve your lifestyle and your goals. And you ignore your actual season of life and you try to do something that a younger version of you used to do when you didn't have a wife and kids. But these things that are on this bullet point list, they only treat the symptoms, not the root cause. And here's the hard truth, brother. Most Christian men are trying to fix a spiritual problem with merely physical tools. And that is why they stay stuck. Because when God is not a part of the plan, you are left carrying all of the guilt, the shame, and the pressure on your own. But the moment that you surrender that and you pair it with the right systems, that is when the weight actually starts coming off. And so does the guilt, the shame, and the pressure that you've been silently carrying for years. So how do we actually do that? Well, let's start by going over that 3-step process that I mentioned a little bit earlier, starting with step 1, which is going to be fueling your body like it's God's temple and not some storage shed, and putting real food into your body by making intentional choices. Most Christian men fly solo and they either wing it or they go all in and rely on sheer willpower, and then they burn out fast. They try to eat clean, but they have no idea how much they're actually eating and whether or not that's going to contribute to weight loss. They skip meals during the day and then they binge at night to make up for it. They try things like keto, carnivore, intermittent fasting, Optavia, and not because these things align with their lifestyle, but because it feels like the only way that they can get back in control. And what's worse is that when it doesn't work, they blame themselves and beat themselves up. But brother, that's not how God designed this. If we look at 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 19 through 20, it says, "Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies." You are called to steward your body as a temple, not to worship food, not to run to food for comfort, and not to pretend like gluttony isn't a real sin just because it's more socially acceptable than something like drunkenness or adultery. And let's take Jonathan, one of our guys inside of the Physique Lab, who's a father of 4 young girls. Over the last year, he's lost 80 pounds. And guess what? He still eats pizza with his wife and his daughters every Friday night. They have family pizza nights together. He didn't need to cut out carbs or swear off sugar. All he needed was a simple to follow plan and the accountability to stick to it. That's why inside of the Physique Lab, we teach something called the 80-20 rule, meaning that 80% of your food comes from whole, minimally processed sources, i.e. lean meats, fruits, vegetables, rice, whole grains, all of the foods that God designed for us. And then the other 20%, that's where family meals, treats, and real life flexibility come in. And the cool part is you don't need to be perfect following this type of diet. You just need to be consistent and intentional. If there are some days that you want to eat more whole foods and less of the quote unquote treats, that's okay, because there might be some other days in the week where you have less whole foods and more of those treats. But as long as it balances out over the long haul, in 80% of the time you are eating food that God designed, and 20% of the time you're having some of those treats, you are going to be a-okay. And the reason that you can follow a principle like this and still lose weight is because the foundation of all weight loss comes from calories. Jesus is king, but calories are second king when it comes to weight loss, because weight loss doesn't just come magically from eating healthier. When it comes to weight loss, the number one thing that matters the most is that you are in a calorie deficit. If you are burning more calories than you are eating, you will lose weight, period. And the sad part is most guys don't understand this, so they jump from fad to fad. Again, carnivore, keto, fasting, whatever it is, not realizing that those diets only work for a short period of time, because what they do is they help you reduce your calories, not because carbs are evil or that skipping breakfast is holy. That's why inside of the program, we track macros. Macros are short for macronutrients, and those are the nutrients that we need most and the ones that actually give us energy. If you look at the back of a food label, the calories come from your fats, your carbohydrates, and your proteins. So if you multiply carbs by 4, protein by 4, and fats by 9, and you total that up, that is how we get the average calorie value per serving size on a nutrition label. Inside of the program, we do track your macros, your proteins, your carbs, and your fats. And really what we do is we help you dial in the right balance of those macronutrients for your lifestyle and for your goals. We also teach you how to figure out your total daily energy expenditure, or your TDEE, which is a fancy way for saying how many calories you burn on a daily basis. And we'll help you set that daily calorie target that lines up with your goals and your lifestyle. Most people, when they start a weight loss journey, they only focus on the physical activity, which is calories burned during exercise. They go do hours and hours of cardio thinking they're gonna burn all these calories and burn fat, but they skip a few key points. Your basal metabolic rate, or your BMR, which is how many calories are burned for your body just carrying out basic functions and keeping you alive, that is comprised of 60 to 70% of your total daily energy expenditure. And one of the best ways that you can actually increase your BMR is by adding muscle to your body. It's like a life insurance policy for your metabolism. You can also increase your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is calories burned during non-exercise activities like walking, through things like a daily step count. You can increase your thermic effect of food, which is calories burned by digesting your food, simply by eating more protein. There are so many levers that you can pull on for weight loss, and everybody ends up focusing on just one. But let me give you a practical example when it comes to nutrition. We know that 1 pound of fat is roughly the equivalent of 3,500 calories. So let's say your TDEE, or your total daily energy expenditure, is 2,500 calories. If you wanted to lose about 1 pound per week, you would want to shoot for a 500 calorie deficit per day, which means you subtract that 500 from the 2,500, which leaves you with about 2,000 calories per day. So that would be your calorie value. But what about protein? Well, quick notes on protein. As you age, your protein requirements actually go up, which is why guys in their 30s, 40s, and 50s cannot get away with what worked when they were in their 20s. And what happens is, as guys age, they typically eat less and less protein, which is the exact opposite of what you should be doing. And then to set your daily protein goal, a good rule of thumb is usually 1 gram per pound of goal body weight, and the rest of your food is built around that. So let's say, for example, you are 240 pounds and you want to get down to 180 pounds, your daily protein intake should be somewhere around 180 grams of protein per day. If you want to get really scientific with it, you can use this chart from Lane Norton's book and you can figure out exactly how much protein you're supposed to eat per day. But what I want to point out is that once you have your calories and your macros, it is a system that is simple, sustainable, and repeatable. But even if you could figure this out on your own, most men don't. They end up slashing their calories to 1,200 or 1,300 per day. They start eating like a bird, they feel miserable, and then they quit 2 weeks later. That is not what we do here. If you want to try tracking calories on your own, you certainly can. You can use apps like MyFitnessPal, Lose It, Chronometer, MacroFactor, MyNet Diary, or Avatar, which is a personal favorite of mine. And all these apps will help you get a rough ballpark of where you're at, what food you're logging, etc. And if nothing else, it will bring some awareness to what's really going on in your body. But if you're tired of trying to guess your way to results, and if you finally want to feel confident in what it is you're doing, that's exactly what we help our guys inside of the Physique Lab build. A clear plan that aligns with both their values and their reality. So if you've been waiting for the perfect plan to come along, don't, because fueling your body is more than just eating healthy. It's an act of leadership. It's a form of worship, and it's one more way to step into the man that God is calling you to be. With step 1 out of the way, we can now take a look at step 2, which is training for the life that God has called you to lead. Most guys in the world think workouts are about looking good, but for us Christian dudes, it's about legacy. God did not just call us to be present with our kids. He called us to lead them, and leadership starts with stewardship. Because if you're 30, 50, or even 70 pounds overweight, you are not just sacrificing energy. You're sacrificing years off the back end of your life. Years that you could have spent fulfilling the Great Commission, or years that you could have spent shaping your grandchildren's faith. That is why fitness matters. So with that, let's get practical. Inside of the Physique Lab, we like to keep things as simple as possible. We have 3 to 4 structured workouts per week. Every workout is roughly 45 to 60 minutes max, with mostly weightlifting and a little bit of cardio if necessary, but usually it's no cardio at all and usually just a daily step goal instead. But every single minute that you spend in the gym is designed to actually move the needle. One of the biggest determining factors for success in terms of a fitness plan is something that you can actually stick to. So if you want to work out 3 days per week, usually what that is going to look like is 3 full body lifts. If you're training 4 days, you could do 3 full body lifts and a cardio day, or what we will usually have our guys do is an upper-lower split. And if you're scratching your head right now wondering if that's even possible, let's just look at Chaz for an example, who ended up joining our program, and he lost 40 pounds in a 6-month time frame and put on some serious muscle. And when he first joined us, he was working out at home with some adjustable dumbbells and a set of resistance bands, but eventually he got so strong that he had to upgrade to the actual gym. And now he is stronger, leaner, and more present than ever. And get this, just a year ago, he told me that he couldn't even run with his son, but now they run together on weekends. Just imagine that for a second. Imagine how much deeper that father-son connection is now that he can actually be present for those runs. That is what we care about here at the Physique Lab. Not perfection, not performance, but progress that actually lasts. And here is an example of what Chaz's workouts actually look like. Just like I shared, 3 days of full body lifts. As you can see, there's no cardio on here outside of doing a 5-minute warm-up on the treadmill just to get the blood flowing. What we typically do is we'll start with mostly compound movements, which are multi-joint movements, and they work multiple muscle groups at the same time. And then he'll end with some arms as a superset just to save some time and hit some isolation work. And then we'll usually finish out the workout with some sort of ab exercise. And then on top of this, what I told him to do was on Saturdays, I want you to to do some quote unquote lifestyle cardio, which is where some of those runs came in with his son, or he lives out on the West Coast, so he'll even go for family hikes as well. But the reason that he saw such amazing results is because of what I said earlier, where adding muscle to your frame is like a life insurance policy for your metabolism. Because here at the Physique Lab, we follow a simple principle called progressive overload, which is a fancy term for saying that you want to get just a little bit stronger each week by either increasing the weight or the reps that you're doing. And here is exactly what that looks like. Let's say, for example, you're doing a barbell bench press. In week 1, you go in and you do 105 pounds for 6 reps across 3 sets. Week 2 might look a little something like this, where you do 8 reps for set 1, and then you do 7 reps for set 2 and set 3. Week 3, you might go in and do 3 sets of 8 reps. And typically what we do inside of the program is we prescribe rep ranges. So instead of telling you to do a certain number of reps, we'll say pick a weight that allows you to fall within this rep range. For this example, let's say the rep range was 6 to 8. Now that you're able to do 3 sets of 8, it's time to increase the weight, but now you can go back down in reps. So what week 4 might look like would be 110 pounds, but now you do 3 sets of 6. So after those 3 weeks, you've gone from 105 pounds for 3x6 to 110 pounds for 3x6. And if you do those little increments over time, that stacks up fast. And honestly, that is how real progress in the gym is built. And it's also how you can stay motivated, by stacking small wins each week and turning this into a competition of you versus you. But here's the thing, man. Most guys might understand this principle and concept in theory, but they don't actually know how to build it into a full program that works for them and their goals. A program that accounts for recovery, proper muscle targeting, and weekly adjustments. And that's exactly why they stay stuck. They fall into what I call the DIY trap, because sure, you could use an AI workout builder app like Fitbod, or you could even go ask ChatGPT for a workout program. You could track your lifts on the Strong Workout Tracker app. You could do endless hours of research on YouTube trying to find the perfect workout routine. But if we're being really honest with ourselves, you wouldn't be here if that's all you needed. You wouldn't still be stuck in watching this video, because fitness isn't just about what you do. It's about the habits that you have and who you are becoming. Even our approach to cardio reflects that, because here's what most people do. They'll either do a bunch of high intensity interval training, which is basically swinging kettlebells around and doing a bunch of burpees and jumping over weights and things like that. Or they'll do low intensity steady state, which is doing incline walk on the treadmill, stationary bike, elliptical, Stairmaster. And sure, you could do those things if you want, but here's the secret I want to let you in on. You don't really have to do either of those to actually see significant weight loss progress. What we do inside of the program is what we call lifestyle cardio. And in my opinion, this is sustainable because it actually fits your life. I'm talking about things like going and shooting hoops at the park. Maybe you take your kids to the park and play tag with them. Maybe on Saturday mornings you guys go for a family hike, or even a simple habit like going for a walk after dinner with your wife and kids. It all counts up and it all adds up, because fitness isn't just about how you look, it's about how you lead as well. It's more than just self-care. It's stewardship, it's worship, and it's one more way to honor the Lord with your body. And now that we know what to do when it comes to nutrition and fitness, we can finally take a look at step 3, which is stop white knuckling and do this in community. You were not meant to do this alone. You need to walk with brothers. If you're anything like the hundreds of men that I've talked to, chances are you've experienced this, or you are currently on this failure-driven cycle. And what that cycle is making this initial decision where you decide you're going to go 100% all in. You pick a new diet, whether that's keto, intermittent fasting, going vegan, whatever you've heard about that's going to be successful for your weight loss journey. You start training super hard, you start eating super clean, and you feel locked in. But then, unfortunately, life happens. Maybe it's a vacation, a birthday party, a work trip. You eat off plan just once, and then you tell yourself you're off plan. And once you see that scale jump, suddenly your mindset switches from feeling good about everything to I blew it and I'm just going to start over again next week. And then we can get to the real problem, which should show you that it's not about willpower. It's actually about isolation, because you are the only one that is keeping you on track. There's no structure, there's no feedback, There's no brotherhood or community of men who are calling you higher once your habits start fading, which allows you to start drifting off. And then after months pass or a year passes, you find some new shiny object, and then you restart from step one again by making this initial decision to go start some other diet, and then this cycle repeats indefinitely. So here's the thing, man. Most men don't need more motivation. What they need is structure, accountability, and brotherhood. Because if you are the only one keeping yourself on track, it's only a matter of time before you drift again. So here is what I would encourage. At the very least, start by building a simple morning and evening routine to anchor your days. Nothing extreme, just sustainable. So for the mornings, that could look like weighing in, drinking some water, taking your supplements, stepping outside for maybe 5 to 10 minutes of sun so that you actually wake up naturally. Delay your caffeine intake for at least 90 minutes. Maybe you get into the Word and read a chapter of Scripture. And as a bonus, you could journal 5 things that you're grateful for. And then for the evening, I would recommend blocking social media apps. You could maybe even dim your screens or set up red light filters on them. You could cool your room down so that way you're ready for bed once you finally get in bed. You could lay out tomorrow's clothes. You could maybe read a psalm or a proverb. And most importantly, you can pray over your day and over your family, and bonus points if you do that with your wife. Are you going to do this perfectly? Probably not, but these small disciplines that I just mentioned, those are going to build some real momentum, the kind that doesn't fall apart when life gets busy. But here's another problem. Most men try to do this without real accountability. Let's be honest, man. Asking your wife to hold you accountable, especially when you do not know what you're doing, that's not leadership. She is not the one that needs to change. You are. And that buddy from your men's group or your pastor, guess what? They didn't build your plan, so what are they actually holding you accountable to? Or maybe you even have a friend who used to be a personal trainer and you want to get some advice from them, or they're going to hold you accountable, but guess what? If you're not paying him, you are not his priority. That is not real accountability. What that really is comfort disguised as commitment. Because when you have real structure with coaches who actually follow up with you and a brotherhood of men who are walking the same exact road, that is when everything changes. And that's exactly what happened to Mark. Mark used to struggle with anxiety. He knew what to do in theory when it came to his weight loss journey, but he never quite stuck with it because life would get busy and he'd go right back in to his old habits. But when he got around the right people, i.e. our community, that is when everything shifted. He lost 33 pounds. He started journaling his gratitude every morning. He started reading scripture even more consistently. And now he's running 5Ks and 10Ks on weekends, which is something that he hadn't done in years. But it wasn't just the fat loss that changed him. It was the brotherhood. Men who called him higher. Men who actually understood the struggle and what he was dealing with. That is what helped him become the man that God was calling him to be. Because when you're doing life with other men, you are no longer trying to figure it out alone. You have eyes on your habits, you have encouragement when you slip, and you have a circle that holds you to a higher standard, not in shame, but out of love. Because isolation is the enemy's playground, but brotherhood, that is where men rise. So now you've got a choice to make, man. You can either take what I've shared in this video and try to figure it out on your own, just like I did. But let me be honest with you, man. That path cost me 5 years of trial and error to get the body that I wanted, and nearly a decade to figure out how to align my fitness journey with God's plan instead of mine. And it's not because I didn't work hard, of course I did, but it's because I was doing it alone with nobody to call me higher when I started slipping. No one to point me back to Christ when life got chaotic or when the enemy put temptation in front of my face. There was no community of men walking in the same direction, and that is what most guys are missing. It's not just a systems issue, but actual support. And that's exactly why we created a program specifically for busy Christian dads, to help them stay consistent when life doesn't go as planned, to hold them accountable to the standard that they know that they're called to, and to surround themselves with men who remind them who they are when the world tries to make them forget. Because let's be real, man, if your son was struggling, you wouldn't tell him to just keep white-knuckling it and figure it out alone. So my question for you is, why would you keep doing that? So if you know you want help becoming the man that God is calling you to be, and if you're ready to finally step up and lead your family with strength, confidence, and clarity, here's exactly what that looks like inside of the Physique Lab. What I'm about to show you is the same exact system that's helped over 120 plus Christian men lose 30 to 50 pounds, and more importantly, keep it off for good while becoming better husbands, fathers, and leaders. So let's get into it with step 1. We're going to lay the foundation. So if you were to join our program, you would get immediate access to our private community for daily support. You'll get some app tutorial videos and a simple onboarding checklist, so that way nothing feels overwhelming, because we want you to start with clarity and confidence from day one instead of second guessing your next steps. From there, we're going to set up the custom game plan. So we are going to build a personalized training program for you based on your current schedule, the equipment that you have access to. So whether or not you're doing home gym workouts or at the gym workouts, maybe you have certain injuries or mobility limitations, we will ask you all of the questions we need in order to design a training program that is going to be not only enjoyable for you, but also effective in terms of helping you hit the results. And then you will be able to track those inside of our exclusive workout app. There's video form review and an entire exercise library database showing you how to do every single exercise with proper form. Part of the game plan is also going to be your nutrition plan. So like I said earlier, TDEE, your total daily energy expenditure, is one of the most important values that you can know. We will help you figure out exactly what that is, and then from there, we will set up custom calorie and macronutrient targets for you to set you up for a sustainable fat loss journey. So you will get customized nutrition programming. You'll get access to the app that we use in order to track all of your calories and macros. And on top of that, you're also going to get example meal plans and grocery lists, as well as access to a recipe database. So it's never going to be a question of when you should be eating, how much you should be eating, and what you should be eating in order to actually reach your weight loss goals. Once we've got the game plan ready to go, then from there, really what we want to help you do is master the basics. And what we mean by that is just mastering simple habits. Things like getting in your steps every single day, what your water intake is on a daily basis, gratitude journaling, spending time in the Word, spending time reading devotionals. We are going to help you track those habits inside of our Physique Lab Fitness app. We're going to help you track your step count, and we can even set up custom daily reminders. So if there are habits that we suggest and you want additional habits on top of that, what we can do is we can set that up and even ping you with a notification to remind you to take care of that specific action item. And the reason we do that is to help you build that daily momentum, so that way you can grow not just physically, but spiritually as well. And then from there, you've got the game plan, you're starting to master these simple habits. What's going to be most important for you is having real accountability, not that stuff that we talked about earlier, but actual experts in the fitness and nutrition space. So what that looks like inside of our program is that each week you'll fill out a check-in form for us. It takes maybe 2 to 3 minutes max to fill out. We'll ask you a bunch of questions on a scale of 1 to 10. How is your sleep this week? How is your stress? How is your digestion? How are you adhering to the training program? How are you adhering to the nutrition plan? So we can go through as coaches and we can send you a 5 to 10 minute video with custom coaching feedback. We'll go through that form, we'll go through your fitness app, and we'll go through your nutrition app. So that way we can give you next steps. So you always know exactly what to be doing. And if your progress stalls, you know exactly what to change in order to get progress going again. And then from there, it's really about locking in these results for life. So as you progress through our program and online course, you are going to learn the why behind everything that you're doing. And the cool part is that you will get lifetime access to our course content. And we have over 93 video lessons on things like the science of sustainable fat loss, the science of what is behind weightlifting, cardio, building muscle, burning fat, things like breaking sin habits, setting up daily routines that actually work for you and your lifestyle. We've got mindset modules. We've got modules on integrity. Some of them are walking in biblical discipline and leadership, and so much more. And I hope at this point it's clear that this isn't just some theory. This is the exact system that's helped over 121 busy Christian men finally lose the weight, keep it off, and become stronger leaders at home and in their faith. You can just look at some of the progress from a few of the guys that we've worked with. Brandon, for example, lost 50 pounds with us and achieved his dream goal of enlisting in the Air Force. You've got Saul, who lost 39 pounds and reversed his prediabetes. We saw Mark earlier, who lost 33 pounds and got rid of his anxiety. We've got Kyle, who lost 37 pounds and went from a self-proclaimed couch potato to being the dad that tells his kids, no, we're going to go outside and play. And honestly, man, that is just scratching the surface of the results that have happened inside of our program. Here's the truth. Many of these guys had tried keto, carnivore, intermittent fasting, Octavia, or just trying to push through on their own. But what actually made the difference was inviting God into the process and getting the structure, the accountability, and support that they needed to stay consistent even when life got busy. So now it's your turn, man. If you've made it this far, chances are you know deep down that something needs to change. You're tired of carrying the weight physically, spiritually, and emotionally. You're tired of feeling like you're falling short in the areas that matter most. And you're tired of telling yourself, I'll figure it out, only to stay stuck for another month. But brother, you don't need to slash your carbs. You don't even need to give up your favorite foods. You don't need to spend hours in the gym or walk 10,000 steps before breakfast. You just need a proven path and a faith-driven community that actually fits your life. And that's exactly what the guys inside of the Physique Lab are doing. Most of them are training 3 to 4 hours per week. They're eating the same dinners as their family, and they're finally building the consistency that they've been praying for without burning out. So if you're ready to drop these 30 to 50 pounds for good and become the kind of husband, father, and man your family looks up to, then what I want you to do is click the link below this video. You'll answer a few quick questions so we can learn more about you and your goals, and then you'll be invited to book a one-on-one call with yours truly or someone from the team where we can map out your next steps together. And even if you don't join the program, I can promise you right now that you will walk away from that call with a ton of clarity and a game plan. And who knows, if it is a good fit, it might just be the answered prayer that you've been asking for. But before we part ways, I want to leave you with this. If God is tugging on your heart right now, you feel that inner conviction, do not ignore it. Do not put this off and fall back into old patterns, because doing this later is exactly what has kept you stuck for years. And we all know the definition of insanity. You're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, and that's not going to fly. So I want to challenge you to actually draw that line in the sand, book your call right now, and I look forward to chatting about the man that you want to become.